Greetings! I am Anthony Elmore, President and founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. My lecture today is called Being Black, Buddhist, and Protesting Racial Injustice. Today is Thanksgiving Day in America, 2015. When you wake up in the news and you find another after another teenage kid who is killed by police officers. And on the news, we find a black teenager who was killed in Chicago by the name of Laquan McDonald. He was shot in the streets in Chicago just like he was a dog. When a hunter kills a deer and the deer falls, the hunter does not keep shooting the deer and emptying his gun. In the case of black people in America, among many whites, you are less than human and your life is no more than that of an animal. Since the time of slavery in America, there were Jim Crow laws, separate but equal, and there's always been a caste and class system in America. Let us first of all show you the video of this white officer killing this teenager. When we say unarmed, if you got a gun and I got a knife and I shoot you in the foot, the fight is over. Let us watch the video. You see the police officer postured to execute with hate and callousness as he took the life of this youth. Let's take a look. Now, the police officer, Jason Van Dyke, has been indicted for first-degree murder. He killed this young teenager in Chicago. This is the reality of black people in America. All the time of my life, as I can remember being in this world, white police officers have always killed black people at will. Now, we have in America and throughout the world the concept of caste. Now, caste and racism is a social construct that started in India around 1900 years ago. Caste comes from the Hindu religion that introduced the world's first sanctified racism. My lecture for today is Being Black, Buddhist, and Protesting Racial Injustice. In the 21st century, there is no record of any black Buddhists who protest racial injustice. In America, you'll find black Christians, black Muslims, black Jews who protest racial injustice in America. The only black Buddhists who actively protest racial injustice in America are we, the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. We at the Proud Black Buddhist World Association practice the Buddhist religion based on the teachings of the 13th century Japanese sage Nichiren Shu. Nichiren teaches that the correct and highest teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha is the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren mentions the Lotus Sutra over 3,000 times in his writings called the Gosho. The Gosho are letters that Nichiren wrote to teach his disciples about Buddhist teachings. Since this lecture is called Being Black, Buddhist, and Protesting Racial Injustice, let us review the Gosho to see what Nichiren writes about protests. Now, there's a Gosho that's titled repaying debts of gratitude. In this Gosho, Nichiren writes this about protesting. He says, moreover, Emperor Taizong was a worthy ruler, but he placed extraordinary faith in the teachings of Ha Suantang. As a result, though there were those who might have wished to speak out in protest, they were, as too often the case, awed by the authority of the throne and held their peace. Thus, regrettable as it is to relate, the Lotus Sutra was thrust aside. In the case of Buddhism in America, among African Americans Nichiren Buddhists, most are taught by the Nichiren Buddhist sects like the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, Nichiren Shu, and others. And what you'll find among most black Buddhists is the fact that they are awed by the authority of the throne or their Buddhist teachers, and they hold their peace. Most SGI members are not going to challenge Daishoki Keita, even though we can show concrete evidence where Daishoki Keita is wrong. Or the Nichiren Shoshu members are not going to go up against a high priest, even though we can show that some of the teachings that he said are wrong. As in the time of Nichiren, these black or African Americans, regrettably, as it relate, the Lotus Sutra is thrust aside. In the Gosho, the Gift of Rights reads, quote, they relate to secular matters in terms of Buddhism, whereas the Lotus Sutra explains that in the end, secular matters are the entirety of Buddhism. See, the Buddha Shakyamuni taught the Lotus Sutra as the highest of his Buddhist teachings. The Lotus Sutra teaches us that secular matters are the entirety of Buddhism. Let us put this Buddhism in a way that most common people can understand. The Lotus Sutra is the only teachings in the world that explains that we live in 3,000 worlds in a momentary state of existence. And our life in the universe is the law of Myoho Renge Kyo, or the mystic law of cause and effect teachings. What happened in Chicago, or what happens anywhere in the world, is a part of the mystic law of cause and effect phenomena. Nichiren writes in the Gosho on attaining Buddhahood. He writes, nevertheless, even though you chant and believe in Myoho Renge Kyo, if you think the law is outside yourself, you are embracing not the mystic law, but an inferior teachings. Inferior teachings means those other than this Lotus Sutra, which are all expedient and provisional. No expedient or provisional teachings lead directly to enlightenment, and without a direct path to enlightenment, you cannot attain Buddhahood, even if you practice lifetime after lifetime for countless kalpas. Attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime is then impossible. This is what has happened to many black people who practice Buddhism with the Nichiren Buddhist sects like the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, Nichiren Shu, and other Buddhist sects. There are many who chant and believe in Myoho Renge Kyo, however, they believe the law is outside their lives. For example, many SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, Nichiren Shu believe that just because they are with this sect or that sect, they are correctly practicing Buddhism. They fail to understand that Buddhism is their life. If you are black and white officers unjustly kill black men, you must do something. If only protesting. Protesting is itself the Lotus Sutra. The SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, Nichiren Shu, The Japanese Buddhist sects not only practice a Buddhism that is an assault on black culture, Buddhism as it is taught and practiced in America has set a dangerous precedent, with blacks in America in the Buddhist teachings practice a teaching that insults the spirit and dignity and the work of Dr. Martin Luther King. These Buddhist sects not only have extricated all of the black culture, history, and language in Buddhist teachings, the black Buddhists in America have allowed themselves and their Buddhist faith to be assimilated into Asian culture. It is like the Star Wars or the Star Trek movie series where there's a menacing set of cybergenetic organisms called the Borg, who assimilate blacks into a collective or a hive and lose their identity. In the case of the Proud Black Buddhists, we organized the Proud Black Buddhists to fight against cultural assimilation. See, in America, we are not a melting pot where we assimilate. When you look in the pot of stew, carrots are carrots, and peas are peas, and beans are beans, and potatoes are potatoes. We all come together like a quilt, but we maintain our individual and ethnic qualities. See, the Lotus Sutra teaches us that you attain Buddhahood as you are. For example, in the Buddhist teachings, there is a person called the Dragon King's daughter. The Dragon King's daughter was able to attain enlightenment, whereas in the earlier teachings, she could not attain enlightenment. See, the Lotus Sutra is the only Buddhist teachings where that teaches you that you can attain Buddhahood in this life as you are. So one does not have to become a Japanese to be a Buddha or to be enlightened. See, when you take on Japanese culture, you are just learning to be a Japanese, but culture does not equate to enlightenment. In Memphis, Tennessee, African Americans were speaking with Japanese accents, and the Nichiren Sect refused to make the Buddhist practice inclusive of black culture. On this Thanksgiving Day, 2 years ago, in 2013, we reached out to African American Nichiren Shu female priest Mukhe Shonin, looking to find cultural inclusion in the Nichiren Shu Buddhist sect. Mukhe Shonin, whose mother is Japanese and whose father is black, who was featured on CNN show Black in America, had an issue with associating with the name Memphis Proud Black Buddhist. There exists no such country as black. However, it is clear in the world that there exists a black culture. And a black culture deserves respect. Just like there is a Chinese Buddhist Association, there's a Korean Buddhist Association, there's a Japanese Buddhist Association, and there are Buddhist associations of ethnic groups all over the world. But what we have is that when you come to a proud black Buddhist, then you are not respected. Now, the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King would be so upset and disappointed with the African Americans who practice in the SGI and Nichiren Shoshu and Nichiren Shu. Dr. Martin Luther King would be so upset by them assimilating and rejecting black. See, being black is a culture, but your culture is just as good as the next person's culture. The Lotus Sutra accepts all. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to take a look at a video of Dr. Martin Luther King explaining what it is to be black and proud and what it is to be black and beautiful. This is how Dr. Martin Luther King speaks. And this is what he says in his own words, which challenges the attitudes of the black people in the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu. Let's take a look at what Dr. Martin Luther King says about being black and being black and being.
I come here tonight and plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody. As I said to a group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennedonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't let anybody take your manhood. Be proud of our heritage. As somebody said earlier tonight, we don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. It's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
Now, you see, Dr. Martin Luther King said there's nothing wrong with being black and proud. In fact, Dr. Martin Luther King says, I'm black and I'm beautiful. And this is the spirit that Dr. Martin Luther King taught. Now, I want you to also look at this. What Dr. King writes about protests. And we're going to put a period on this quick Buddhist lecture because Dr. Martin Luther King tell you how he felt about protests and how we African Americans should feel about protests. Now, again, my lecture is called Being Black, Buddhist, and Protesting Racial Injustice in America. Let's take you out with Dr. Martin Luther King telling you about the right to protest. And protest is the Lotus Sutra. I'm Anthony Elmore. Let's listen to Dr. Martin Luther King.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
We're going to put you guys on alert in the 15th chapter of the Sutra where the Buddhist was on the earth. Them giant suckers who trying to knock us. We are the Black Buddhist Scholars. Dr. King, Malcolm X, and Nelson Mandela. The Black Buddhist Scholars, the one that was stubborn and come from India. His name was Nichiren Shu in Mecca. The old name for India is Eastern Ethiopia. From the land of India called Eastern Ethiopia, a great man called Shakyamuni Buddha. His great teacher was the Long-Term Sutra. The little sutra teaches just to treat them in equality. We teach the people how to be free. The teacher of the sutra, we're the best suited. We call ourselves the Proud Black Buddhist. Them giant suckers, they're trying to knock us. We are the Black Buddhist Scholars. They're people in India, treated worship like slaves. The people are called dollars, or called untouchable, or $10. It is the place where the world's racist culture, where black is at the bottom and they slave their brothers. We're black and proud, refuse to be at the bottom. We fight for justice, we the Black Buddhist Scholars. On the sutra, we're the best suited. We call ourselves the Proud Black Buddhists. The SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu. All the Japanese sects support the Brahmins. They do not believe in equality among us. We blacks in America must know where we at. We was joined with our brothers in India called the Violate. The teacher of the sutra, we're the best suited. We call ourselves the Proud Black Buddhists. Them giant suckers who trying to knock us. We are the Black Buddhist Scholars. Fighting for peace, justice, and equality. We cannot go too far. It's time to go to India to join the movement led by the Japanese America. We're the Proud Black Buddhists. We know who we at. We're gonna help our brothers called the violate. The people in India call them untouchable. You're a friend to us, and you're most lovable. All the giant suckers who try to knock us, let them know that we're the Black Buddhist Scholars. The teacher of the sutra, we're the best suited. We call ourselves the Proud Black Buddhist Quality. Coming to you, the Lotus Sutra. Coming to you, the Lotus Sutra. Coming to you, the Lotus Sutra. Coming to you.